The Galactic Assessment Center floated in deep space around a small red star. No planets circled close enough to live on. Every few years, the best young students from many alien species came here. They took the Unified Knowledge Trials. This big test decided who would help lead the galaxy in the future. The rules were very strict. No weapons were allowed at all, not even a small, sharp thing. If anyone tried to bring something dangerous, they were sent home right away and never allowed back. John Carter was the only human this year. He stood in the long arrival hall with the other candidates. Most of them were taller or shorter or had different skin colors or extra arms. John was just 6 feet tall with short brown hair and calm gray eyes. He did not talk much. He watched everything quietly. Tall Virellan proctors with 4 arms walked among the new arrivals. Squat Korath guards in heavy armor stood at every door. They used special scanners that could see through clothes and bags. The machines checked for metal, sharp edges, hidden power cells, anything that could hurt someone. One by one, the candidates stepped forward. They emptied their pockets. They took off belts, rings, and hair clips. Even strong boot soles were removed if the scanner beeped. John walked up when it was his turn. He carried only the small bag they gave everyone, a standard datapad, a stylus, and basic clothes. The Virellan proctor looked down at him with large, compound eyes. "Human," the proctor said in a flat voice. "Remove all items." John opened the bag. He placed the datapad on the table. He took off his jacket and shoes. But the scanner passed over him twice. It made a soft green light each time. Nothing dangerous showed up. "Clear," the proctor said. "Proceed to the refectory for the first meal. Tests begin in 1 hour." John nodded once and walked away. He felt the eyes of other candidates on him. Some looked curious. Some looked like they already did not like him. A young Trellian named Kiv stood nearby with 2 friends. Trellians had smooth blue skin and sharp teeth. Kiv was tall and thin. He whispered something to his friends and laughed. John heard the words soft human and weak meat. He did not turn around. He kept walking. The refectory was a big open room with long white tables. Bright lights came from the ceiling. Food trays waited on a moving belt. Each tray held the same meal: gray nutrient paste, a few hard protein strips, and a cup of clear liquid. The trays themselves were made of biopolymer, strong enough to hold the food, but brittle on purpose. The designers made them that way so no one could turn them into weapons. John took a tray and found a seat in the corner. He sat alone. Around him, groups formed quickly. Trellians sat together. Korath sat in their own corner. A few smaller species gathered near the windows to look at the stars. John ate slowly. He chewed each bite carefully. He watched the room without staring. Across the tables, Kiv pointed at John and spoke loudly enough for others to hear. "Look at the human, eating like a child. No claws, no armor, no strength. How did he even get accepted?" A few candidates laughed. Others looked uncomfortable but said nothing. John kept eating. He finished the paste first, and then he broke the protein strips into small pieces. He drank the liquid last. When the tray was empty, he stacked it neatly in front of him. He looked down at the tray. The main plate was round and flat. The edge was a little thicker than the rest. That extra thickness gave it strength to hold wet food without bending. John ran his thumb along the rim. He felt the small raised line where 2 pieces of biopolymer had been joined during manufacturing. It was not sharp at all, but it was there. A small thought came into his mind. He pushed it away for now. He stood up and carried the tray to the return belt. Many candidates had already left. The room was quieter. John placed the tray on the belt and watched it disappear into the cleaning slot. Then he turned and walked toward the examination dome. The dome was huge, a clear sphere bigger than a sports field. Inside, small floating desks hung in the air. Each desk had its own soundproof bubble so no one could cheat by hearing others. John found his assigned spot near the outer wall. He sat down. The bubble closed around him with a soft hiss. A hollow screen appeared in front of him. The first test would be xenobiology. Questions about alien life forms from every known world. While he waited for the start signal, John thought about the tray again. The material was tough but not impossible to break if you knew where to press. He remembered basic physics from school on Earth, stress points, fracture lines. If you scored a line first, then applied force the right way, the break would follow that line. Clean, controlled. He looked at his hands. No tools, no knife. On only fingers and the blunt stylus they gave everyone. It would be slow. It would take patience. But it could be done. The warning chime sounded. 30 seconds until the test began. John took a slow breath. He pushed the thought of the tray to the back of his mind. Right now, the test mattered, the questions mattered, survival in the exam mattered, but deep inside, a quiet part of him knew something else. Rules were only words. When real danger came, words did not stop blades, or teeth, or claws. And humans had learned long ago how to make tools from almost nothing. The test started. Words and diagrams filled the hollow screen. John leaned forward and began to answer. His fingers moved fast on the interface. Outside his bubble, the other candidates did the same. The room was silent except for the soft hum of machines. And no one noticed the human in the corner desk. No one saw the small, calm smile that crossed his face for just a second. The first phase would end soon. Then came the short break. Then the second phase, applied engineering under time pressure. And after that, if things went wrong, John Carter would be ready. He always was. The first test ended with a soft chime. The hollow screens went dark. The soundproof bubbles opened. Candidates stood up slowly. Some stretched. Some talked in low voices. A short break started, 15 minutes before the next part. John Carter stayed in his seat for a moment. He watched the others move. Cleanup drones hummed through the dome, small round machines with soft arms. They collected empty trays and cups from the desks. John looked at his own desk. His breakfast tray still sat there. Yet the drones had not reached his section yet. He reached out and pulled the tray closer. He turned it over in his hands. The main plate was smooth on top. The bottom had small ridges for strength. The edge all around was about twice as thick as the middle. That thick rim was the key. It held the weight when the tray was full. John pressed his thumbnail into the seam where the rim met the flat part. The biopolymer felt hard, but not unbreakable. He glanced around. No one watched him. Most candidates walked to the water stations or talked in small groups. Kiv and his Trellian friends stood near the center. They laughed about something. John ignored them. He picked up the stylus. The stylus was short and blunt, made of soft plastic so it could not scratch or stab, but it had a thin edge at the tip for writing on the hollow screen. John pressed that edge against the seam. He pushed hard. Nothing happened at first. Then a tiny white line appeared, a hair-thin crack. John breathed out slowly. He worked the stylus back and forth along the same line. Slow, steady. The crack grew longer, half an inch. Then 1 inch. He stopped every few seconds to check if anyone looked his way. No one did. The break was almost half over. John kept going. He scored the line all the way around one side of the tray, about 8 inches long. The material started to feel weaker there. He pressed his thumbs on both sides of the line and bent the tray gently. It flexed. The crack opened a little more. He needed to separate the piece, not break the whole tray. That would make noise. He held the tray flat on the desk. With one hand, he pressed down on the main part. With the other, he pulled up on the thick rim section. Slow pressure. The crack spread. A soft snap. The curved strip came free, 8 inches long, curved like a banana. One edge was rough and jagged from the break. The other edge was the smooth original rim. John held it up for a second. It was light, thin, not sharp yet, but the broken edge had tiny sharp points where the material split. He ran his finger along it carefully. It scratched his skin. Not deep, but enough to know it could cut if he made it better. He slipped the strip inside his left sleeve. The fabric was loose enough to hide it. He put the rest of the broken tray back on the desk. It looked like it had cracked by accident. Many trays broke a little during meals. No one would think twice. The warning chime sounded again. 5 minutes left. Candidates hurried back to their desks. The bubbles closed. The next test began. Applied engineering. Candidates had to design a stable fusion containment lattice. No paper, no real tools. Only the hollow interface and their minds. Numbers, shapes, equations, all in their heads or on the screen. John started working. His design was clean. He knew fusion lattices from school on Earth. He typed fast, but his mind stayed half on the strip in his sleeve. It pressed against his arm, a reminder. Halfway through the test, something went wrong. A loud alarm filled the dome. Red lights flashed. One of the floating pods, Gorv the Korath's, shook hard. Sparks flew from the sides. The simulation inside had gone bad. The pod's walls cracked. Superheated pieces of composite shot out like bullets. The emergency fields tried to catch them. But some got through. Shouts, screams. A female human candidate, Lisa Morgan, sat 2 bubbles away. A sharp shard flew straight at her. It would hit her face. She raised her arms to cover herself. John did not think. He jumped from his desk. The bubble was open for movement during alerts. He crossed the gap in 3 big steps. He pulled the strip from his sleeve as he moved. With both hands, he snapped it against his knee. Once. Twice. The scored line broke clean. The rough edge became sharper, a real cutting edge now, ugly, uneven, but deadly. He reached Lisa just as the shard got close. John swung his arm up. The biopolymer blade met the flying piece of composite. It sliced through it. The shard split in 2 and flew past Lisa's head. One half hit the wall, the other bounced off the floor. Lisa looked up. Her eyes were wide. She saw the blade in John's hand. Blood dripped from his thumb where he tested the edge earlier. More blood now from gripping it tight. The alarm stopped. Emergency teams rushed in. Proctors shouted orders. "Stay in place! No movement!" Gorv climbed out of his broken pod. His armor was cracked. He looked angry. "Sabotage!" he roared. "Someone change my parameters!" The proctors scanned the area. They found the problem fast. Someone had hacked the simulation inputs. The overload was not an accident. John stood still. The blade hung at his side. Green cooling fluid from the broken pod dripped on the floor. Smoke rose in thin lines. Candidates stared at him, some in shock, some in fear. Kiv stepped forward from his group. His sharp teeth showed in a smile. "The human has a weapon," he said loudly. "He broke the rules. I'd disqualify him." John looked at Kiv. His gray eyes were calm. "I did not bring a weapon," he said. "I made one, because your sabotage almost killed her." The lead proctor, a tall Virilan with gold marks on his arms, walked up. "Drop the object," he ordered. John opened his hand. The blade fell to the floor with a small clatter. A security drone picked it up and sealed it in a clear field. "You will be held for review," the proctor said. John nodded. He did not argue. He looked at Lisa. She stood up slowly. Her hands shook a little, but she met his eyes and gave a small nod. "Thank you," the nod said. The dome grew quiet. The other candidates watched in silence. No one laughed now. No one called the human weak. The test was stopped. Everyone waited. The proctors talked in low voices. They looked at the footage. And they looked at the broken tray piece. They looked at John. He stood there with his hands loose at his sides. Blood dried on his thumb. His face showed nothing, but inside, he felt the old human feeling, the one that said, "When rules fail, make your own way." And he had. The review would come, questions, maybe punishment, but for now, the danger was stopped. A life was safe. And the exam was not over yet. The dome stayed quiet after the alarm stopped. Smoke still floated in thin lines near Gorv's broken pod. Red emergency lights blinked slowly. Proctors moved fast. They checked the damaged pod. They scanned the floor for more sharp pieces. Candidates sat back down in their desks. No one spoke loudly. Everyone watched John Carter. He stood in the open space between desks. His hands hung loose at his sides. Blood from his thumb had dried into a dark line. The broken biopolymer blade lay on the floor a few feet away. A small security drone hovered over it. A clear field wrapped around the sharp piece like glass. No one could touch it now. The lead proctor walked up to John. His forearms moved in calm patterns. His compound eyes clicked as they focused. "You used an unauthorized object," he said. "The rule is clear. No weapons. You are disqualified." John looked straight at the proctor. His voice stayed even. "I did not bring anything. The tray was given to us for food. I changed it when your systems failed, when a candidate tried to kill another." The proctor turned his head slightly. "The sabotage is under review. That does not change the rule." John did not move. "The rule did not save her. This did." He nodded toward Lisa Morgan. Now she sat at her desk again. Her face looked pale. A small cut on her arm from flying debris bled a little. She pressed a cloth to it. Her eyes met John's for a second. She gave another small nod. It said more than words could. Kiv stepped forward from his group of Trellians. His blue skin looked darker under the lights. His sharp teeth showed when he spoke. "He attacked me," Kiv said in a loud voice. "I was only defending my work. The human is violent. Look at what he did." John turned his head slowly toward Kiv. "You had a ceramic shard in your hand. You raised it toward her. Everyone saw." Kiv laughed. It sounded sharp and fake. "Lies. I had nothing. The human made up a story to cover his crime." A few candidates whispered. Some looked at Kiv with doubt. Others looked scared. Gorv, the big Korath, stood near his broken pod. His armor had black marks from the heat. He pointed one thick finger at Kiv. "I know sabotage when I see it. My pod did not break by itself. Someone changed the numbers, and it was not the human." The proctors looked at each other. One of them pulled up a hollow screen. They replayed the footage. The whole dome could see it now. Big images floated in the air. First, Gorv's pod. The stress levels jumped too high. Someone had typed new commands into the system. The commands came from a terminal near Kiv's desk. The footage zoomed in. Kiv's fingers moved fast on his interface during the engineering test. He smiled while he did it. Then the shard. The footage showed Kiv stand up after the alarm. He reached into his sleeve. A thin piece of ceramic came out. It looked like part of a broken datapad frame, but it had been sharpened. He walked straight toward Lisa. His arm went up. The shard pointed at her throat. Then John. He jumped. He snapped the tray piece. He swung. The blade cut the flying composite shard in half. Then John kept moving. He drove the blade into Kiv's side. Not deep enough to kill, but enough to stop him. Kiv dropped the ceramic. He fell to his knees. Green blood came out fast. The footage ended. The dome stayed silent. The lead proctor spoke again. "The sabotage is confirmed. Kiv violated exam security, attempted harm to another candidate." Kiv tried to stand. 2 security drones grabbed his arms. "This is a mistake," he shouted. "The human is the problem." The proctor ignored him. He looked at John. "You still used a weapon. The rule stands." John spoke quietly. "Your rule banned things we bring in. Not things we make when someone tries to murder. If I did nothing, she would be dead. Your security failed first." Gorv stepped closer. His voice rumbled. "The human speaks truth. I would be angry if someone tried to kill my rival, but I would not let them die." Lisa stood up slowly. She walked to the edge of her bubble. Her voice was soft but clear. "He saved my life. I saw the shard coming. I could not move fast enough. John did." The proctors talked among themselves. Their voices were low. They checked more footage. They looked at the broken tray piece in the evidence field. They measured the cut on Kiv's side. Not fatal, but painful. After a long minute, the lead proctor turned back to John. "You will be taken to a holding room. We will decide your status. The tests are paused for now." Security drones moved in. They put soft cuffs on John's wrists. Not tight, just enough to hold him. John did not fight. He walked with them. As he passed Lisa's desk, she reached out. Her fingers brushed his arm for a second. "Thank you," she whispered. John gave her a small nod. Then he was led away. The other candidates watched him go. No one laughed now. No one whispered, "Weak human." They looked at the blood on the floor. They looked at the broken pod. They looked at Kiv, who was now held by drones. Green blood stained his clothes. In the holding room, John sat on a plain bench. The room had white walls and no windows. A small table stood in the middle. One proctor stayed to watch him. The others left to talk. John leaned back against the wall. He closed his eyes for a moment. His thumb still hurt. The cut was not deep, but it stung. He thought about the tray. How simple it was. Just food plastic. But in the right hands, it became something else. He thought about home, Earth, where people had turned sticks into spears, rocks into axes, scrap metal into guns. Humans never waited for permission when danger came. They made what they needed. The door opened. The gray-furred Zorath judge walked in. Zorath were old and wise. Their fur showed age in silver streaks. This one had kind eyes. "I am Judge Lore," he said. "I have seen the footage. I have heard the arguments." John stood up. "Sir." Lore raised a hand. "Sit. You are not on trial yet." John sat again. Lore spoke slowly. "The rule says no weapons may be brought into the exam. You did not bring one. You made one from exam property, when a life was in danger. Many species would call that clever, and some would call it breaking the spirit of the rule." He paused. "But we did not protect our candidates. The sabotage happened under our watch. The attack happened under our watch. Your action stopped a death." John waited. Lore continued. "I will speak to the other judges. But I believe you should stay in the exam, under watch. No more tray work." He gave a small smile. "And perhaps better security." John nodded. "I understand." Lore turned to leave. At the door, he stopped. "Humans are strange. You follow rules until the rules fail. Then you write new ones with your hands." He left. The door closed. John sat alone again. He looked at his hands. Small cuts, dry blood, strong fingers. He smiled just a little. The exam was not over, and he was still in it. The holding room felt cold and quiet. John Carter sat on the hard bench. Yet the white walls had no marks. No windows showed the stars outside. Only one small light glowed in the ceiling. A single Virelin proctor stood by the door. He did not speak. He just watched. John looked at his hands. The cut on his thumb had stopped bleeding. A thin red line remained. He flexed his fingers. They still worked fine. He thought about the blade he made. It was gone now, locked in evidence. But the feeling of holding it stayed, sharp, real, necessary. The door slid open. Judge Lore walked in again. The gray fur on his face looked softer in the low light. He carried a small hollow pad. Behind him came two other judges. One was a tall Virelin with silver bands on his arms. The other was a short, wide Korath female. Her armor made soft clicks when she moved. They stood in front of John. Judge Lore spoke first. "We have talked." "To all the judges. We watched the full footage many times. We read the reports." John stood up slowly. He kept his hands at his sides. "The sabotage by Kiv is clear," Lore said. "He changed the simulation. He tried to kill Lisa Morgan. He planned to blame a human, to make us think humans cannot follow rules." The Korath judge stepped forward. Her voice was deep. Gorv's pod could have killed more than one. The fields failed for seconds. That is too long. The Viralan judge added, Kiv carried a hidden ceramic shard. He passed our scanners. That is our failure too. John listened. He did not interrupt. Lore looked at John directly. Your action stopped a murder. You did not start the fight. You ended it, but you broke the no weapons rule, even if you made the weapon here. He paused. Some judges want you removed. They say the rule must stay strong, no exceptions. John spoke quietly. If I followed the rule, Lisa would be dead. Kiv would win. The exam would reward a killer. The Korath judge nodded once. That is true. Lore raised a hand. We agree the rule needs change, or better explanation. It bans brought weapons, not made ones in emergency. We will add that note to future exams. He looked at the hollow pad. You are not disqualified. You stay in the trials, but under close watch. Extra drones, extra scans. No more private work on trays or anything else. John gave a small nod. I understand. The Viralan judge spoke. The tests continue in 1 hour. You return to your desk. The engineering phase restarts for everyone. Fair chance. John looked at each judge. Thank you. They left. The door closed. The proctor at the door stepped aside. Follow me. John walked out. The hallway felt brighter after the small room. They took him back to the dome. The air smelled like burned plastic and cleaning chemicals. The broken pod was gone. New panels covered the spot. Cleanup drones had wiped the blood from the floor. Candidates sat at their desks again. Some looked up when John entered. Whispers started, but no one shouted. No one pointed. Eyes followed him. Some looked curious. Some looked respectful. Lisa Morgan sat in her place. When John walked past, she stood up. She stepped out of her bubble. John, she said softly. He stopped. I did not get to say it right before, she continued. Thank you. Really. I saw the shard. It was coming fast. I froze. John looked at her. Her eyes were clear now. No fear. Just thanks. You would have done the same, he said. She smiled a little. Maybe, but I did not have to. You did. They stood quiet for a second. Be careful, she said. Kiv's friends are still here. They do not like you. John glanced at the Trellian group. Kiv was gone, taken away for punishment. His friends sat close together. They stared back. I know, John said. Lisa touched his arm once, then she went back to her desk. John sat down, his bubble closed. The hollow screen lit up. The engineering test started again from the beginning. Everyone got a fresh start. John worked fast. His design for the fusion lattice was the same. Clean lines, good math. He finished early. He checked it twice. Then he sent it. Around him, others typed. Some looked nervous. The sabotage had shaken them. But the test went on. After the phase ended, the proctors spoke over the speakers. Results for this phase will come soon. Then the final oral defense. All candidates stay until scores post. John leaned back. He watched the dome. Different species, different minds, all here to prove something. He thought about Earth again, how humans fought rules when rules were wrong, how they bent things, broke things, made new things. A breakfast tray became a blade. A rule became a question. The proctors moved among the desks. They talked to some candidates, asked questions, checked work. One proctor stopped at John's desk. He opened the bubble. Your design is strong, the proctor said. Very strong, but we must ask. Did you use any hidden aid? John met his eyes. No, only what was in my head, and the screen. The proctor scanned him again. Green light passed over John's body. Nothing beeped. Clear, the proctor said. He closed the bubble. Time passed. The dome grew quieter. Candidates waited. Then the big screen in the center lit up. Scores appeared, names in lines, numbers beside them. John looked up. His name was near the top, not first yet, but high, very high. Higher than most. Lisa's name was close. She had done well too. Kiv's name was gone, removed. Whispers spread again. This time they sounded different. Not fear, not mockery. Something closer to surprise, to respect. A Zorath candidate near John turned his head. "Human," he said. "You fight well, even with no claws." John gave a small smile. "We make our own." The Zorath laughed softly, a rare sound. The proctors announced the next step, oral defense. Each candidate would face questions from the judges. Live, in front of everyone. John felt the old calm settle in, the same calm he felt when he snapped the tray, and when he swung the blade. Danger had come. He answered it. More would come. He would answer that too. The dome lights dimmed a little. The defense would start soon. John sat straight, ready. He had no blade now, but he had something better. He had proven it, and the galaxy was starting to see. The dome lights came up brighter for the final phase, the oral defense. Each candidate would stand in the center circle. Judges sat on a raised platform. Questions came fast. Answers decided the last scores. Everyone watched. No bubbles now, no hiding. John Carter waited near the back. His name appeared on the big screen near the end. He sat straight, hands on his knees. He listened as others went first. A young Zorath spoke about trade laws between systems. His answers were clear. The judges nodded. Good marks. A Trellian girl, Kiv's cousin, went next. She talked about energy grids. Her voice shook a little. She knew people stared at her family name. She finished. The judges asked hard follow-up questions. She answered most, but not all. Her score dropped. Gorv went up. The big Korath stood tall. His armor still had black marks from the broken pod. He spoke about defense systems for colony ships. His words were strong, direct. The judges liked it. His score rose high. Lisa Morgan stepped forward. She looked calm. She spoke about medical tech for mixed-species crews, how to heal wounds from different biologies. She used examples from Earth hospitals and alien clinics. The judges asked deep questions. She answered every one. Clear, smart. Her score climbed close to the top. Then the screen showed John's name. He stood up, walked to the center. The floor glowed soft blue under his feet. He stopped in the circle, faced the judges. Judge Lore spoke first. John Carter, human, your scores so far are strong, but we have questions about more than math and science. John nodded once. Tell us why you made the blade, Lore said. John looked at each judge, then at the candidates watching. Because someone was going to die. The rules said no weapons, but the rules also say protect life. When one rule fights the other, I choose life. A Virilan judge leaned forward. You could have called for help, waited for proctors. John answered without pause. There was no time. The shard was raised. Seconds mattered. Waiting meant death. The Korath judge rumbled. You cut Kiv, not to kill, but to stop. How did you know how deep to go? I watched his body. Trellians bleed fast from the side. I aimed to hurt, not end. And I learned basic anatomy, from books, from stories. Humans study how others work, to understand, to survive. Whispers moved through the dome. Some candidates nodded. Others looked thoughtful. Judge Lore asked the last question. If you lead a ship one day, or a station, or a world, what rule will you follow first? John thought for a second. The one that keeps people alive. Rules change. People do not. When danger comes, I make what I need. I protect what matters. That is the human way. The judges wrote on their pads. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Lore said, Step back. Results soon. John walked to his seat. Lisa gave him a quick smile as he passed. He sat down. The dome waited. Minutes felt long. The big screen flickered. Lines of names and numbers appeared, top to bottom. First place glowed bright. John Carter. While his score was highest, not by a little, by a clear lead. Every phase showed perfect or near-perfect marks. The engineering restart did not hurt him. It helped. He stayed calm, focused. Lisa came second. Close behind, Gorv third. The rest followed. A soft sound came from the speakers. The lead proctor stood. The unified knowledge trials are complete. The top candidate is John Carter of Earth. His work shows deep knowledge, quick thinking, and courage under pressure. The proctor paused. A note from the judges. The human did not bring a weapon. He made one from what we provided, because we failed to keep the room safe. That is not a violation. That is responsibility. Quiet spread. Then slow claps started, first from Lisa, then Gorv, then others. Even some Trellians joined. Not all, but enough. John stood. He did not smile big, just a small one. He nodded to the judges, to the dome. After the ceremony, candidates gathered their things. Shuttles waited at the bays. John walked toward the exit. Lisa caught up. "You did it," she said. "We did," John answered. "You scored high, too." She laughed softly. "Because no one tried to stab me again." They walked together. The hallway opened to the shuttle bay. Stars filled the big windows. Ships waited like silver birds. "You going back to Earth?" Lisa asked. "For a bit. Then out again. More work, more tests, real ones." She stopped, looked at him. "Next time something goes wrong, maybe we face it together, before blades come out." John looked at her. "I like that plan." They reached the shuttle doors. Lisa's flight was different. She turned. "Take care, John Carter." "You too, Lisa Morgan." She stepped onto her ship. And the door closed. John boarded his. He found a seat by the window. The shuttle pulled away from the station. The red dwarf star shrank behind them. He thought about the tray, the crack, the snap, the blood, the questions, the score. He thought about what came next. The galaxy was big, full of rules, full of dangers, full of chances to make something from nothing. A small smile crossed his face. Humans had done it before. They would do it again. The shuttle jumped to faster than light. Stars stretched into lines. John leaned back, closed his eyes. He was ready, always.